Just get that kicked off. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming once again to the APAC Canvas Community Meetup. As always, this is a CanvasLIVE event, but it's run by us voluntarily, and as per the standard terms of that slide. So thank you for coming along. What we're going to do today is a welcome to new members. Anyone that wants to raise their hand now, please feel free to do so. And in a moment, we'll do a quick round the table of any new members who's their first time. We'll do a quick round the table update on what people are doing, anything they want to tell us. You know, what are you up to in 30 seconds? What are you focusing on at the moment? What's big on your radar? Colleen from University of Adelaide is then going to take us through the beta release notes. Then Mark Witteveen is going to take us through SPLAT, which is a wonderful named tool, which is the self and peer learning and assessment tool, and some learning analytics. Kirsty Kiddo here from UTS is then going to take us through some analytics and developer keys and some discussions surrounding that. And then we'll go through the standard few items at the end to finish up. So is there anyone who's new that would like to put up their hand to say hello and introduce themselves? Natasha, feel free to turn on your mic and say howdy. Just to let you know, Natasha, we can't hear you. I've seen you've unmuted your mic.
That should be. Oh.
There we go. We can hear you now.
Oh, okay. So I'm Natasha. An assistant learning designer at UTS, and that's the main stuff.
Excellent. Lovely to have you here. First timer. Anyone else that would like to say hello? No? Alrighty. So quick round the table update. Anyone that would like to give a quick update again, please just use the raise your hand feature, and we'll quickly go around the table with what you're focusing on. Anyone that would like to sort of say what they're up to. I'll happily kick it off just while we're waiting for anyone that would like to raise their hands. UTS, we're currently focusing heavily on something that will become very relevant through a session next week organised by Mark, which is grades moderation and pulling grades out of Canvas and putting them into our student information system. So that's something that we're really focusing heavily on at the moment, and would love to chat to anyone that is also focusing on that. Anyone else got anything that they're currently focusing on that they'd like to quickly speak to? Nope. Alrighty.
Before you go, Stuart's Mark here in Adelaide.
Oh yeah, Mark.
So we've managed to get quizzes.next turned on, and so we're having a little look at quizzes.next. It does look pretty good to start with. There's some really nice features around question types and how they put the questions together. So we're just in the very initial stages. The other thing, just to let everybody else know, we've been hassling Instructure about Analytics 2.0, and we've asked to be included in the alpha release of Analytics 2.0. We don't know whether they're going to let us in, but we hopefully will, and if they do, we'll let you know what we think of Analytics 2.0. That's it from me, or from Adelaide.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. You're incredibly brave, and I salute you for it. Alrighty. Okay, so I'll hand over to Colleen to quickly go through the beta release notes. Colleen, did you need me to give you screen control? Colleen, are you with us there?
Mark muted me, sorry. Yeah, screen control would be fine, thank you.
No worries, give me a second, I'll make you a co-host. You should now be able to share your screen.
Thank you.
No, he's given it to Adelaide. No, you need to give it to, Colleen.
Ah, okie dokie. Sorry, my mistake.
We're confusing you.
Yes. Just while you're doing, I'll just start. So I won't go through piece by piece every item in the beta release notes. I'll just kind of hit some of what are the highlights in my opinion and the people that have been commenting recently. So probably the more noticeable things are some minor UI changes, particularly in the area of discussions. I will just kind of share my screen so that you can see those. There we go. Move that out of the way. Subscribe button is now a bookmark. I'm not sure if that's more or less confusing. The close for comments is a little lock icon, same on announcements. It's become a lock icon for close for comments. One of the things that's appreciated in the area of discussions is that you can now post a non-graded discussion to a single section of students, so you don't have to post it to everyone, which is a nice feature. The one that probably has been raved about the most is the word counter in the rich content editor. So if you're going into reply to a discussion post, it'll tell you how many words you counted. So if you set a word limit or something like that for your students, then they'll be able to quite easily see that. It's not there, however, it doesn't show up the same in the speed grader. Apparently that's the next thing that they're going to incorporate. So in that rich text editor, it'll tell you your word count. That's the highlights from this one, actually. So it's very small. Given that I am not a technical mastermind, however, there may be things that other people have picked up in terms of the platform integrations and updates to APIs, etc., that might be of interest in that side of things.
I can speak to a little bit of that. Thank you very much for presenting that. On the technical side, there's actually been a few API changes, which people may be curious to have a look at. I know that around the grades API, you can now create a custom column and have that visible but read only, whereas previously the moment you made it visible, it was editable by the academic. So that's actually a really nice little change that we're looking at. It hasn't flown through to production yet, but something, if you're looking at grades, could be handy and useful. Anyone got any questions for Colleen on that? Thank you very much, Colleen.
No worries.
Alrighty, let's hand over to Mark to give us a demonstration of SPLAT. Again, love the name. Mark, would you need me to, again, share screen control with you?
Yes, please.
Okay, give me a second.
With Mark?
Yes.
This is Mark.
Won't be a second. Should be ready to roll.
If you've got any questions while Mark's presenting, just type them in the chat and I'll kind of make a note and have him go through any of your questions at the end of the presentation.
Okay, I'll do a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation first, just for you, and then I'll get into a demo. So SPLAT is Self-Care Learning Assessment Tool. So, you know, we've had some fun with it. There's our graphics. This is sort of what we tell the academics here. So effectively it's around group work. It's trying to give students the ability to learn about their group work and to provide anonymous feedback to their peers around their group work. So basically, you know, a bit of work here, a bit of words here about what it is. We've basically worked on, this was originally developed at the University of Queensland as a plug-in for Blackboard, and it was called PAF, Peer Assessment Factor. They have used some work from the UK, which on the top of my head I can't remember what university it came from, and that work was around this PAF and SAPA scores, so a peer assessment factor and a self-assessment peer assessment score, which I'll actually explain a little bit. So we've developed it as an LTI for Canvas, and we've basically used Ruby on Rails to do the development. So a little bit about the back, about what we're talking about. So this SPLAT or PAF score is effectively a score given to a student based on their peers' assessment of their work within the group, and the score is basically a number worked out over the number of people in the group, and then times by 100. If not all the students participate, then we work on that one. Basically, if all the students are doing the same in a group and they're all participating, then you'd expect everybody to be around about 1 to have that's their peer factor. They're all contributing. Somebody that might get above 1 might well be doing a little bit more work, so they might be the leader and stuff like that. But because the students have to give a score across the whole team, to actually give somebody a more than so like you might give them a percentage. So to give them more than everybody else, somebody else in the team will have to get a little bit less. And so the idea is that a team leader might get 1.2, somebody that's just been coasting might get a 0.8. And you could use these scores as a multiplying factor for group assessment tasks. So if they had to submit something and you provided a mark on that bit of assessment, then you could use this factor to scale scores. So this is sort of a bit of a guide about what the scores, those PAF scores mean. So if if somebody gets 1.5, clearly something's going wrong in the group. Between that's sort of really about 1.2 and down to about 0.8. Well, yeah, that's about right. If people are getting below the 0.8, then again something might not be working right in the group. So one of the things that you could use this thing for is if you've got a semester-long group assignment, you could get them to do something early on in the group, and then get them to do this SPLAT and have a look at how the group's response. And clearly, if there are outliers, or if it doesn't look like people are pulling their weight, it might give you a bit of a hand to go, all right, let's go and talk to this group and try and get them to work. So there's a couple of ways you could use this. So the next one is this SAPA score, which is really this self-assessment over peer assessment. So this is sort of trying to give your own assessment of your own work based upon what your team thinks. So again, if you get more than 1, then you think you're doing more work than your peers think. If you get less than 1, then you're thinking you're doing less work than your peers think. So it gives you, as an academic, it gives you something that you can talk to individuals about their work in a group. So that's the high level stuff, and I know I've run through that fairly quickly. Happy to make these slides available, for everybody so they can have a look. So I'll get into the demo in a sec, but effectively there's 3 steps to set it up. So you basically set it up as an assignment. It's an external tool. You allocate it to groups. You then publish it. The students then interact, and I'll show you that. And then at the end, you can have a look at the results, and you can manage those results to some extent. So I'll see if I can now get over to our version of. So I'm going to try and now share. I don't know if I've done this before. How do I change when I'm sharing? New share. Okay. What do I want? This is just to prove that we actually do get rain in Adelaide. This is the first weather we've had this year.
Since December.
We are, you know, we really should be running outside and getting wet because, you know. So yeah. Anyway, get rid of that. Okay, so I'm just going to have to clean up my desktop a bit so I can actually see what I'm doing here. All right, so this is just a course. So if I go into assignments, I can create a new assignment. So you know, sort of so call it something. You can put some details here. We've found with the way that we've built it that we have within the LTI another spot for text because it displays better. So this is just, you know, text can be put in here about what we're doing, but we've got another spot for that. So it's an external tool. We go to our list of LTIs. We come down and use SPLAT. Of course, I haven't had the UAT involved in there. Then it's the same. You can set assignment to, you know, whatever you like. That really shouldn't make much difference in the way it works, and I think we tell people just to leave it to everybody. You can set a due date and availability.
There's one more. Don't forget to put, don't include in final grade.
Oh yeah, well, okay.
That one.
Kim's telling me not to include in my grade, so you test.
They'll get 1.2 as part of their grade, that's all.
Well, they won't because there's no pushback. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
And so we do generally tell people to load it in the new tab. Okay, so save and publish. And so that's the first bit. So we go in here. So now we can put some text in about why we want the students to do stuff. So this is a bit more detail. Basically, to give them some, position about why and what they're doing. So now the next bit you see is we have determined that there are 3 areas that we want in for students to comment on their group skills. We are discussing about potentially making more. We have 5 core questions. Now, just for simplicity, I will turn some of these questions on. You can have as many questions as you like. The survey becomes a bit long, you know, you can create your own questions, and then you can drag those questions to where you want. So I'll stick that there. And so the ones I've ticked, and this now are the questions that the students will get asked. I can add some more questions. I hit save. I now need to go over to this. So that's showing me the questions that the students are going to be asked. I then go to next, and this is really assigning the group. So we pull group information out of Canvas. In this one, we've got 2, so I can either go to large groups, which would then show 3 groups with 8, 9 members, or I can go to SDG groups, which 4 groups. Okay? So it depends on what you've set up with your groups. You just go save and complete. You know, so once you've set this up, if you've made a big mistake and stuff like that, you've got to delete it and start again. So I'm going to go confirm. And so from an academics point of view of setting this up, that's it. So they've now got this, this SPLAT thing that students can participate in. So I'll now go over, and I've got, this student should be in that. I'm hoping doing live demos is always fraught with danger. So I'm going to masquerade as this test student that we've got in here. So now if I go to assignments, I should see, demo for APAC, there it is. If I click on that, as a student, go into new window. The only reason we're loading a new window is it gives you a little bit more interface for this demo. So now you can see that I'm in this group, I'm civic tester down here. So these are my peers in my group, and I have to allocate 100 points to them. So if everybody's doing the same work, and there's 5 of us, I can add, I'll do that, 20 points to each. And you can see it tells me that I've got 80 points left to allocate. And so I can go through and it keeps telling me, and 20 points, no points left to allocate. Click out of that. And so then I can go to the next question. So I could say, oh no, I want to add 150 points. And then you go, well, hold on, can't do that. It's got to be less. So, I might only say, oh, they only need 10. And, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give everybody else 20. And it'll come down, and at the end, it'll tell me, well, it'll show me that I've still got points to allocate. And it's 10 points. And it won't let me save at the end if I've got one of these questions that requires more. So I need to make it 30. And so you can sort of see, you just keep going through. I'll just quickly go through and fill these in all with the same. So hopefully the students are going to actually distribute the points a bit better than I'm doing. And then here's that last question that I put in there. Let's go through. And then I can leave a comment about the group. Now, one of the things we've been discussing is about do we allow people to make comments about other individuals? One of the problems with that is user interface design. How do you manage that? Stuff like that. So at the moment, we've kept it at this. We've got a little bit more development work, which we'll do till the middle of the year, and then we're going to stop work until we get feedback from people about this. So, so that's my feedback, and then I submit the response, and that's it. I can't, as a student, get back into this. I can't do anything else with it. So I'm sort of done there. So I'm going to just close that and back out here. I need to stop acting as this user. So if I come back over to our demo, and I'll come back in as an academic. Now I won't go back into that that demo for APAC because there's only one student in there, and so the PAF stuff won't look properly. But this one here, we've done a bit more on. So I'll just come in here, and I'll put it back in a new window. So this one's been filled out by students, and unfortunately this one's a new OT, so it is actually going to take a little bit longer. Here we go. So these are the questions. So these were just the core questions that we had that were asked in this one. And if I go over to manage, you'll now see that I've got information about the groups. Now, in this one here, this first person hasn't done no SAPA score, so they haven't done it at all. And you can see all these ones that are highlighted mean that there's a variance in the scores of more than 15%. And so that's sort of telling you that there's probably something wrong. And you can see here, this one, somebody's given a total of 200 and only 33 on down the bottom. If I come down to S group 3, it's a bit easier to see. So this is a bit more what you'd normally expect. And so you can see here that most of them, these two people here have basically said everybody's done the same. And the other 3 participants have sort of moved the marks around a little bit more. So one of the things you can do here is say, oh, that doesn't look right, and this is really an outlier, and I don't want to include that. So you can click on that and exclude it. And now it gives you the new PAF and the new SAPA. So you're sort of saying, no, that, there's something wrong with that. Don't like it, whatever. And you can go from there. And so this basically just gives you a way of looking at those scores. And at the moment, we haven't developed any way of getting this back to the students, but it is possible to download all of this as a CSV. And so you go from there. So that's a very quick overview of how the tool works. And if I just very quickly get back to PowerPoint. So So that last bit I showed you was at step 4. So basically, the next 3 features we're going to build and then we're going to stop is notify non-complete students. So a student that hasn't filled it in, having the ability to just send an email to that, or all the students that haven't filled it in. At the moment, you'd have to individually organise an email, so we just want to make that a little bit quicker and easier. We've got no way for a teacher to clear an attempt. So if a student's done something wrong, it's a bit of a problem for us at the moment. So we're going to make it so that a teacher can clear a student attempt, talk to the student again and say, look, this is what this is about, and make sure that, if they've given themselves, the 100% for each one and ignored their peers, that's not what this is about, explain to them. And then the next bit is getting those PATH scores back into gradebook. And so therefore it could be used as a multiplier for a grade. And we're discussing how we might do that. There's a couple of ways. Anyway, we'll work that one out. This page down the bottom here, so I'll make these slides. We've got an open course that sort of gets you to the self-help stuff that shows how we think this should be done. So that's it for SPLAT.
So there's a couple of questions.
Okay.
One is, could you say what the underlying architecture is, PHP or .NET? Or whatever.
Yeah, it's neither of those. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you.
Was it on the first slide? That wasn't a language, no.
Well, it's Ruby.
Ruby, that's right.
It's, yeah. Look, I haven't got tech, and I don't think that any of our technical people are on today. So I'll have to take that one on thing. My understanding it's been developed Ruby on Rails, and that's a language in itself, but it is really a framework, isn't it? So I don't know. So next question.
Be interested to know what the feedback has been from academic staff.
You could answer that one, because Colleen works with the academics more than me.
The feedback so far has been really, really positive. The approach that was taken in the development of this, because we did have the PATH tool before in Blackboard, so a slightly different version of this when we were in Blackboard. And the academics who were power users in that tool in Blackboard were actually invited from the very beginning to discuss what their needs would be in terms of a self-peer learning assessment tool. And so a member from Mark's team ran workshops around that. They worked to prioritize what the features would be within this new tool. And then an initial deployment was made with kind of minimum viable, as a minimum viable product. And then it continued to be built over semester 2 of last year and throughout the summer. And kind of our final pieces are just being launched now. So their feedback, because they helped build it, really has been incredibly positive, and they've received some good feedback from their students as well in terms of being able to comment on how the group dynamic has really played out for them, rather than just getting a mark as a group without kind of having the say so in that way. So it's a great tool for that. And then that's feedback from academics so far. And then we're hoping that this will kind of spread. They were already kind of spreading the word themselves because they love the tool. And then we'll kind of be looking towards the end of the year to really see how many users we've got and see if we can run a workshop for what kind of future features might be in that regard. Mark, there's another question. Would love to know what you're thinking on notifications. Would you use the messaging framework in Canvas?
Our preference would be yes to use the messaging framework. We're just starting to look at that for analytics now. So in our first initial look, we can't see how to actually create new messages in the APIs, but we haven't delved deep enough. So as long as we can get around the API, looks like you just have a single message, and every time you hit the API, you're just appending to a message that's already there, which would be a problem for us. Assuming we can get around that, then we'll definitely use it. The message doesn't work that way, so I don't know why the API doesn't expose it, but we probably haven't looked at it well enough. So that's our next bit of development work, which we plan to get all of the development work finished before second semester. So the tool will be effectively finished by that stage.
And that was the last question.
Yeah. So
one question that I'd also love to throw out, is this something you would consider open sourcing or collaborating on, perchance?
yes, we would consider collaborating on. We haven't really decided how we might deal with this. I think my preference would be to open source it, but you know, universities have pushed for money at the moment. We're being told we've got to make money where we can, so it may be that we'd have to go down the Swinburne model of talking about some sort of licensing. But anyway, yes, we'd be open to talk to anybody about it. You know, happy to show more details and talk more about the underneath of it.
Excellent, thank you.
Now, I'm not going to show you anything about analytics today because I don't have a test area that I can actually do anything in without showing real data. So we might have to do that next time.
Too easy. We can certainly put that on next month's agenda. Thank you very much for showing us that, Mark. That was really great, and I look forward to having a bit of a deeper play and look with it. I'll now hand over to Kirsty to talk about analytics and developer keys.
Hi everyone. This is a very quick presentation that we just want to sort of float an idea that's been coming up with us. I'm based at KIC, which is the Connected Intelligence Centre at UTS, and one of our big responsibilities is developing learning analytics solutions. And we're currently thinking about what kinds of student-facing analytics solutions we can build for Canvas in terms of dashboards and things. One of the issues that we're coming across concerns data access. So how do we actually access the API, or the Canvas API, in a secure and a fairly stable, robust way? And so if we go looking at the API that the developer keys give us access to, you'll see that there's things like delete access to a whole heap of aspects of your course, which makes it very difficult to develop decent analytics solutions. So one of the things we're proposing to do is, as a bit of a block, probably across Australia and New Zealand, approach Canvas and suggest that they actually prioritise the development of read-only developer keys. So essentially a developer key that would let you access things via just the get commands, rather than things like post and updates and deletes, which would be relatively straightforward to implement and would actually open up Canvas to a whole heap of fairly decent development that was quite stable and potentially quite secure. So it would give them a lot of value add for not very much cost. So we've submitted an issue to the community, have we? Yes, we have. And we're just wondering if there's interest in other universities in that. We can chase up the other learning analytics groups in the various universities, because I know a lot of them are quite interested in this problem as well at the moment. But if we could get the community as a block moving on this, we thought we might be a bit more likely to get a bit of influence or a bit of traction in terms of getting Canvas moving quicker. So there's just a thought thrown out on the breeze for you all.
I've just put a link to the that feature idea, which was logged just this afternoon. So I'll also make sure that's shared into the APAC group as well, so you can have a look at that. And certainly, if there's anyone who can float that to their internal analytics teams or even their IT teams, I know from an IT perspective there would be benefits in having this also. So I think there's actually quite a few avenues that we could approach this from, and only give it more and more weighting. Thank you, Colin. Colin's just mentioned that he's voted that up. Love your work.
I think, it's Mark in Adelaide again, I think that's, we're definitely going to have to approach them from a combined and APAC point of view. We've been talking to them about their APIs around their analytics, and their attitude to us has been, well, we're doing analytics 2.0, we're really busy. Once we've sort of done that, we'll come and talk to you again. And we're doing things like going into every student in a course and basically scraping the page of data and then redisplaying the data. So we're hitting the the Canvas lots of times to get data out of a course. We're saying, look, this is giving you an overhead. If you just gave us an endpoint and an API that we can pull this out, it would not be an issue. But they won't look at an endpoint for an API development for us. Even if we suggested we'd write the code for them and give them the code. So yeah, I think it would need to be multiple universities to be trying to push to say this is something that is that we think is really important and that they need to look at.
So one of the advantages we have working in our favour here is actually that the guy who's in charge of data analysis and learning analytics for Canvas actually came out to the Learning Analytics and Knowledge Conference that was held during March, and a bunch of us were talking to him about some potential points where we feel as a community we can actually collaborate with Canvas, because Australia has got a very strong learning analytics reputation. There's been a lot of work going on here already. And they're starting to notice that. So there's a good chance that if there's a block from the learning analytics community, we approach them as, here's a development opportunity for you, that we can actually get some traction there. But we'd need to have a fairly good case that a lot of the different universities were actually, going to be facilitated by that. Because I agree, they can be not terribly responsive depending on how we approach. So yeah, the idea would be a coordinated effort.
So one thing that I'm happy to do is take this feature idea and also add it to the APAC priorities list and actually put together in the APAC community that foundational documentation template that I've sort of put together. What I can do is I can do that before the next meeting, and then if we could use maybe some time in the next meeting to build up that case, because that's really that document I put together so that hopefully that will show it's not just one institution, it's actually a collective of the institutions. And I think we may have a few other ideas come off the side of that. I know there are always going to be some things that I know universities and indeed other institutions as well are doing that are confidential, and so we can't always put everything in there. But certainly with this, anything where we can collaboratively say, hey, we need that too for these business reasons, what I can then do is take that and I can give that to the team in Sydney, who can then use that to advocate for us as well. Excellent. Thanks so much for that, Kirsty. So just a couple of administrative things. Some of you may have seen in the APAC community the Swin Moderate demo. I've been informed that the date may change for that. So if you haven't signed up already, please jump into the APAC community, just click on the events button and you can see that there. The date will keep you posted on. So once you're signed up for the event, if there are any changes, you'll receive updates to that. So we will keep you posted. As always, anyone that would like to present or do a discussion for the next meeting, please feel free to drop me an email or even just create a discussion in the APAC community. Apologies, I haven't had a chance to set up the new session yet. I'll do that in the next day or two and share that within the APAC community as well. But the next session, if my mathematics is correct, is on Tuesday, May the 1st. So look forward to seeing everyone then, unless there's anything else that anyone would like to discuss. No. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. Greatly appreciate it and look forward to seeing you at the next session on Tuesday, May the 1st. And thank you so much today to our presenters. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stuart.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.